In this video, I'm going to teach you about writing a research paper. First, find the journal or conference webpage and look for a Call for Papers or Submit Papers link. This will give you information on the due dates for submitting papers, as well as a list of topics that the journal or conference is interested in. Many publishers now have online submission links, so have a look for those because when you've finished your paper you can upload it electronically. There may also be a restriction on the number of pages or the number of words that you can have in your paper. Most publishers also provide Word templates for authors to use. This is a great starting place for writing a paper. If you're submitting a paper to a conference, make sure that you take note of the dates that the paper is due. When you open up the template from the website, you should find a list of instructions for how to prepare your paper. To start writing my own paper, I usually delete the instructions and start filling in the details of the paper that I want to write and then save it. That way you save all the formatting information in the document and you keep the fonts and the columns if there's any, and any references in the same format. Just like doing a literature survey, writing a paper doesn't happen in a linear order. So you might even find that you change the name several times. And if you divide the paper up into sections, then you can come back and fill in each section as you have information for it. So as you can see here, we're typing in a tentative title and also some contact details. Next, go through the paper and delete any text that is part of the instructions, but leave the headings so that you know what the formatting has to be like. It's also a good idea to leave any example references at the end of the paper so that you can refer to them later. Next, start filling in the major headings. The abstract should be written last because it will contain a summary of the contents of the paper, which you won't know until you've finished writing it. And by putting in the major headings, it will give you something to focus on as you're writing. The introduction section of the paper, which comes first, should introduce the audience to the topic that you're talking about. And in here you'll need to define any terminology that you're going to use. At the end of the introduction, you should give an overview of the contents of the paper. This means writing sentences such as, this paper is organised into the following sections, and in section 2 you will read about this. Most papers are organised in a fashion that they give an introduction to the topic, an introduction to your actual research, and then some experiment or evaluation that you have carried out. First, you should give an exact definition of your ideas, your theories, your architecture, your software, or whatever the focus of the paper is. You then follow this with some kind of evaluation or assessment of your theories or software or whatever. If you've carried out an experiment, you need to detail this experiment as well as present the findings. A common mistake that people make when writing a research paper is to leave out details of their experiment or evaluation. You need to talk about how you did the experiment, where you did the experiment, who did the experiment, what people you used for the experiment, and any other tools. Try to be as exact as you possibly can. For example, if you surveyed 35 third-year university students, then say this. Results in research papers are usually summarised. This is because there is usually little room in the constraints of the page count for a research paper. Therefore, you should provide summary graphs or summary tables of data that you have collected. When presenting your results, a picture is certainly worth 1,000 words. Make sure that you refer to any diagrams as Figure 1, Figure 2, etc., and that each diagram has a title beneath it. You must refer to figures as Figure 1 within the text. You cannot say, please see the figure below. Also, make sure that you refer in the text to the figure before it appears in the paper. Do not mention it after. Another major part of the paper is to insert references. Here you'll see references being added to support statements and definitions. So this first line will be to define what an intelligent tutoring system is, and then a reference will be added using the Zotero plugin. This plugin and how to use it is explained in the previous video on researching on the web. If you select Chicago Manual Style as your referencing system and click on Endnotes, you'll find that the references that you create are put at the bottom of the paper as footnotes. Note that many conference and journal publishers prefer you not to use footnotes. So if we change that with the Zotero plugin to, say, the IEEE formatting, that will then allow you to insert a reference to a paper, which will give you, in this case, a number 1. And then if you go to the references section of the paper, you can insert the reference of that paper, which is the details about the author, etc. Once you've done this the first time, then every time you add in another reference inside your text, it automatically will put the reference in the reference section. So here's an example of some text. We add in a reference and you'll notice that automatically number 2 has been updated in your document. Another particularly difficult thing to do is to reduce the page count or the word count of your document. So make sure throughout that you keep a track of how big the document is becoming. Publishers may refuse to publish or charge for extra pages.